Welcome back. It's me, Holly of At Yarn's Length. This is week 10 of the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, and we'll be working the Cockleshell Stitch. This is a really interesting and fun stitch to work, and I hope you guys will really enjoy it. Cockleshell Stitch is fun, it's easy, and it's fast, and it may just be the thing that we need after last week's stitch, which was a little more time intensive. It is our second shell pattern. Let me grab our first one. So cockle shells versus sweet shells. The sweet shells were of course smaller. It's a denser fabric. The cockle shells are really big fans. So I thought it'd be okay to include two shells, but if you're kind of worried that the shapes look too similar, because they both do have that kind of fan or bell shape, just consider that when you're placing your panels, especially if you're using different colors. You might want to choose a color that's not similar so they stand out from each other a little bit. In terms of placement, you'll have plenty of time to figure that out as we move through. As you can see, these shells are a lot bigger than the shells that we knit for sweet shells. So there are 3 of them across. We'll do 3 repeats of the pattern, of the stitch pattern per row. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful all over texture pattern. It is a little lacy. Don't be intimidated by that. And like I said, it works up fast because there are lots of knit rows. I have added some stitches to the edges to make it fit. And I think that mirrors the little edges that are already built into the pattern really nicely. I am going to be working a swatch today. My swatch is going to be, the width of this, but I am including these stitches. So when I work my one panel, if you work it 3 times, we're going to be on the same instructions today. That makes it a little bit easier. With those knit rows, I am going to kind of disappear though, because you don't need to watch me knit so many stitches. It's a time eater. So I'll give you a heads up. You'll see me disappear and you'll see me pop back in with a newly knit row. It'll be just like magic. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you. Look at this edge. So it naturally, I haven't blocked it. And I haven't woven in my tails, but it naturally creates this like scalloped edge, which I think is really lovely. If you were going to put this on a garment or something like that, or even like a table runner, this would be a really elegant edge, right? But it may not be what you're looking for your blanket. So you have 2 options. You can just leave it the way it is. You can block it out a little bit. I steam block when I work with acrylic, so you can do that. And that should straighten it out quite a bit. Or you can put a border on your blanket. And I didn't put a big border on mine. I did do what I would call trim, but not a border. A border with an actual border, a thicker border, would even that out. And you could even make it kind of match what we're already working with. So just stuff to think about for when you're making it your own. Cockleshell Stitch. Look at all these stitches, man. It's worked in multiples of 19, which is why we can only fit 3 on. 19 plus 2 over 12 rows, but like every other week, I modified it to fit this pattern, so I have even more rows than that, or even more stitches than that. I have 28 stitches. So if you want to do the swatch with me, you can do 28. It's going to have the edges and the centers, 1 repeat in the middle, and the edges that are used for the knit along. I've already cast on my 28 stitches, and I worked 1 row, which was the setup row. And the next row is row 1, and it's a knit row. Rows 1, 4, 5, 8, and 12 are knit. And that's because this is a garter-based stitch. As you can see from the fans, they were, let me pull them back out. These fans are garter stitch, right? So we're working lots and lots of rows where we're focusing on just doing those garter stitch stitches. And that makes it go fast. That makes it a little easier, but it's still beautiful. So row 1, we're gonna knit all. I'm gonna disappear, knit my first row, and come back for row 2. Okay, here I am, I'm back. Hopefully you're back too. I knit 1 setup row and I have knit row 1. All right, time to get to the good stuff. Row 2 is going to start with a knit 5, both for the swatch and the panel. And if you're using stitch markers, you can put them in on this row between the repeats. You'll need 2, or if you want between the repeats and between the first and last repeat and the edge stitches, you will need 5. 1, 2, is that right? 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. You'll need 4. 2 or 4 is what you need. 2 if you just want in between the repeats, 4 if you also want to isolate the edge stitches on either side. Okay. It's not a mathing day for me. Start with a knit 5, and this is where we get into the repeat. So this is where you place your marker. Knit 1, yarn over, and you have to go all the way around because our next stitch is a purl 2 together. Knit 13, and this is a symmetrical stitch. So anything we do on one side, we know we're going to do on the other. And that is with the exception of the edge stitches. I think that's 10. I was talking too much. 11. Nope, hold on. Yarn over, purl 2 together, boom, boom, that was 10. 11, 12, 13, we've got another purl 2 together and another yarn over, because remember it's the mirror of what we did before, and this yarn over goes into a knit 1. Then we finish off with a knit 4. Okay. That doesn't really look like anything yet. Row 3. And your other stitch marker should go right there. So it was a yarn over and then knit. It was a yarn over and then a knit 1, and then that's where your stitch marker would go. Is that right? I'm looking at the wrong end. It was a yarn over and then a knit 1, and your other stitch marker would go right there. And that's where your other repeats would be, or your final 4. All right, row 3. For real this time, let's begin with a knit 4. And if you're using them, your marker should be right there to mark the edge stitches. For the repeat for row 3, knit 1, and then we're going to knit 1 and purl 1 into this yarn over right here, okay? Knit 1 into it, don't drop it. Purl 1 into it, and you can't drop it. So we've done an increase there into that yarn over that was already an increase. Now we're going to knit 15. This is a big swatch. That's 15, and we're at our next yarn over, and you probably know what we're going to do to it because we knit purl into the first one. We're going to purl knit into this one because we want that symmetry. So purl and knit before you drop it off. Don't drop it off after the purl. Then knit 1. That's the end of the repeat. Knit 5 edge stitches. And this is what we have after row 3. Both row 4 and 5 are knit, so I'm going to knit rows 4 and 5, and I will return. I have worked rows 4 and 5, which were both all knit, and I'm on row 6. Row 6 is going to begin with knit 5. And we're going to begin our repeat. Knit 1, yarn over and purl 2 together twice. So I'll yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 2 together. And just a reminder, when you see all that in parentheses with twice, that means you do everything in parentheses twice. Next, I'm going to knit 11. And because we did over here, we did a yarn over, purl two together, yarn over, purl two together. The symmetry on this side is going to be a purl two together, yarn over, purl two together, yarn over, purl two together, yarn over twice. And then I don't need to go all the way around because we're going into a knit. So yarn over like that, and that'll work with a knit stitch. Knit one, and then you'll repeat that until you get to the final 4 and knit those. And this actually brings us to the halfway point of this stitch, which, I mean, there's really not a lot happening here. The good stuff happens in the second half. Okay. All right, row 7. Gonna start it off with a knit 4 for those edge stitches. And then we've got a lot of parentheses. So I'll walk you through that. So first we're gonna knit 4. And then beginning our repeat, we have knit 1, knit 1, purl 1 into the yarn over, and do all of that twice. So we're going to knit 1 again, and then knit 1, purl 1 into the yarn over, and we'll knit 13. 13 is going to bring us to the next yarn over. And here it is. So for this yarn over, we're going to purl 1, knit 1 into it. And somehow I've got one of my hairs in here. And then knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 again, and knit 1, and that brings us to the final 5 stitches that we're going to knit. The next row is knit. Go ahead and knit the next row, and I'll see you when you're done. Row 8 is knit, and I've just completed it. And this is what I have so far. Getting ready to work row 9. This row is wild. So make sure you have your long needles if you're not already using them. For this one, we're going to start with a knit 4. Those are our edge stitches, and then we'll begin the repeat. The repeat begins with a knit 6. And now we're going to, remember we're looking at the parentheses, we're going to yarn over twice and knit 1. Both of those things, or all 3 of those things, however you want to think of them. We're going to do those 14 times per repeat. So make sure you're doing this over the widest part of your needle because we're going to need the slack on the next row. Don't do your yarn overs here because as you slide them to the right and keep working stitches, it's going to get tight, tight, tight. So yarn over twice, knit 1. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, y'all. Woo! So we've done that 14 times. We're going to knit 5 to the end of the repeat. And then knit 5 edge stitches. So one interesting thing here is the stitch count doesn't actually increase. I've mentioned this before, yarn overs don't count as increases until they're actually worked in the following row. And the reason for that is what we're about to see. So let's go ahead and get to row 10, which is where the magic starts to happen, right? Row 10 starts with a knit 5. We know that because that's our edge stitches. It's always going to begin with that knit 5 or knit 4. All right, and the repeat begins. All right, knit 5, knit 1 for the repeat, yarn over, and purl 2 together twice. So yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, and am I in the right place? Okay, yes. Yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 2. Did I do that right? 5, knit 1, yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, 2 together. Okay, and we're here. Whew. All right. Now we're going to purl 15 stitches together. What? Yeah, I know. What we're going to do is we're going to drop these yarn overs. That's why we can't count them as increases, because they're not actually stitches that are ever held for any permanent amount of time. We don't have to reduce them if we're not actually knitting them. So what we're going to do, I slide all 15 over. I think it's the easiest way to do. So I slip them and let the yarn overs drop. 2, 3, 4, 5, and see how they're making these long loops now? That's what we want. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So these are 15 stitches. So what I actually do is I slide them over like that, and then I put them back. I mean, it really doesn't matter what needle they're on. You can purl them either way. But there's another thing I want to show you. Okay, so here they all are. And this is what's going to create that fan shape that you saw earlier. Remember last week when we did the slip 2 with the yarn in front, purl 3 together, purl 2 slip stitches over, and I said that was the same as a purl 5. I felt like the purl 5 was easier there, but here I feel like this is harder. And so one thing that you can do is you can slip all the stitches onto this needle and just purl the first few and then start slipping those over using the technique that we used last week. Your other option is, because you do have all the slack, you may find it easier to purl these 15 than you did to, do I even have all 15? Than you did to purl 5 last week. Okay, so that is all 15. Look at that, that's nuts. So I'm just gonna pinch it to keep it there. Very carefully push that through to the other side, and boom, look at that. That's what a purl 15 looks like. It looks wild. Absolutely wild. But that's our stitch. Okay, so once we have purled 15 together, we're going to once again yarn over and purl 2 together. Whoop. Yarn over, purl 2 together, because those are in parentheses. All of it's in parentheses. We do it all twice. Yarn over, knit 1, and end with a knit 4. Don't worry if your purl 15 together looks a little sloppy or looks a little weird, or you're not really sure what to make of it. It gets prettier on the next row. Okay, so this is what mine looks like right here. You can see it's already starting to have that shape. Row 11 starts with a knit 4 for our edge stitches. We're going to knit 1 and then purl and knit into the yarn over, both purl and knit into the same yarn over. We're going to do that 3 times. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. We've done it twice. Woo, knit 1, that is tight. Purl 1, knit 1, 3 times. Next, we knit 1. That's our purl 15. Look at that. So now it kind of looks like it's, I don't know, like a broom. What does that look like to you? This is what it's supposed to look like. I don't know what you'd call it. And then we're gonna knit 1, knit 1, purl 1 into the yarn over, knit 1. Oops. Knit 1, purl 1 in the side, and then we knit our last 5 stitches. Woo! Those double parentheses 3 times get me. All right, so this is what you have at the end. It looks like a little bit of a mess. It is not. You can see I just sort of like tidied that up. We've got one more row. It's all knit. I'm gonna go ahead, work that row, and I'll be right back. Done. Okay, so here's what it looks like. If I can get my cables to play nice. It looks weird, right? It's okay. When you have a bunch of them all together, it's gonna even out. It's gonna look a lot nicer. It's actually gonna look like this. Or like this, is the case may be. As you can see, this stitch pattern looks great on both sides. I would consider this a reversible pattern because can you tell if this is the front or if this is the front? Huh? Yeah, so I would consider that completely reversible. And the garter stitch really helps with that. But once you build in the next few rows, these all close in and tidy up and it becomes a really beautiful stitch. If you are working the panel, you are going to work the 12 rows of the pattern 8 times. You've already done a setup row, so that's all you need to do. After that last repeat of the pattern of the 12 rows, you're going to bind off all your stitches and you'll be finished. If you're knitting the swatch, you're done. This was just for practice. If you would like the written pattern, the link is below. I've got it for the swatch, which doesn't have the edge stitches for the cal. It just has the original edge stitches, so it'll look something like this. And I have the written pattern for the actual knit along, and both of those are the same link. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, and please come back next week. Okay, see you then. Bye.